Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and this is a live coverage of Hurricane Laura as it made landfall a few hours ago around 2 o'clock in the morning on the coast of southwestern Louisiana, okay, with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, and it brought some serious impacts. We saw dangerous amounts of surge well into the double digits, talk about up to 10, 15 plus feet of storm surge, and we're going to be continuing to track Hurricane Laura today as it moves its way inland. So if you are new here, please consider subscribing and also ring the bell notification so you don't miss another video. And let's get right into it here. So I am going to, once again, get my drawing tool real quick, and here we go. All right, so we got the latest 8 o'clock a.m. advisory here, and as you can see, well inland, okay, we're talking about several miles inland, and it's still a Category 2 hurricane with winds of exactly 100 miles per hour here. So this is still a pretty strong Category 2 hurricane. Speed hasn't changed much. Winds the storm is moving north at about 15 miles per hour, but you can see how far out of the storm center the tropical storm force winds go. We have tropical storm force winds making their way of out of the center all the way through Mississippi. We're seeing tropical storm force winds in Texas, eastern Texas, through Louisiana, and through western Mississippi, and we have some hurricane force winds, okay, near and just outside of that storm center as well. All right, so this is still going to be a hurricane as it moves its way. Once it crosses into Arkansas, we're expecting it to weaken into a tropical storm, but as it crosses to Little Rock, still a strong tropical storm here, and then weakening into a depression as it moves through Missouri, through Kentucky, then eventually a post-tropical depression as it moves to the Mid-Atlantic. We can see some remnants move to the Mid-Atlantic over the weekend, then maybe regaining post-tropical storm status off the East Coast, but that is definitely further on down the road. All right, so taking a look at the surge, again, 10 to 15 feet. We have seen some spots getting close to 20 feet. Again, kind of like that bullseye location I was telling you guys about, anywhere from the Johnson Bayou through Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge. That's where we saw some of the highest storm surge values here. But even still, Lake Pontchartrain, we're talking about 1 to 3 feet of surge for you guys. All right, Morgan City through the mouth of the Mississippi River, we're talking about 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. And even just east of Galveston, a couple feet of storm surge. It's still producing a lot of problems here. When we look at the rainfall, all right, this is valid through 2 a.m. Eastern Time through 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, August 30th. So it's basically kind of like telling us how much additional rainfall from just after the point of landfall, how much additional rainfall could we possibly see. And anywhere in the orange, maybe another 6 to 10 inches just outside of that. In the yellow shade, including Little Rock, actually Little Rock's in 6 to 10, but just outside of there, 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. If you guys have anything to say about this hurricane, if you have any weather questions about this hurricane, be sure to leave some comments in the live chat, okay? And even as the storm moves through, okay, we consider tropical storm, eventually tropical depression, still 2 to 4 inches of rain from northeastern Arkansas through Kentucky, even through parts like West Virginia. Maybe Charleston, West Virginia could see 2 to 4 inches of rain from the remnants here, and then on through the northeast, we'll see. That's definitely far on down the road. So your greatest risk of flash flooding over the next 3 days, overall in these red shades, okay, including Western Kentucky, Little Rock, down through Texarkana, and as well as New Orleans now highlighted in that highest threat of flash flooding. As you can see on the right side of your screen, here's today. All right, tomorrow we see a lot of yellows moving through the lower Ohio Valley, and then on through the Mid-Atlantic and eventually the Northeast by day 3. So this is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, because the flooding forecast goes out about 3 days or so. And I want to give a little quick check on the power outages because I heard, I know there's a lot of power outages here. So I'm going to refresh the map here from poweroutage.us. And as you can see, Louisiana has over 437,000 power outages here. And since it's already made landfall, it's a good time to look at the power outage numbers. And of course, these will continue to go up drastically. All right, but this was last updated. This is last updated about 10 minutes ago. All right, so we're getting the latest updates here. And even Texas, well over 110,000 power outages in the state of Texas here. All right, so you can see a lot of problems here. And customers tracked in Louisiana over 2 million. Texas is about 12 million. And you can kind of see, like, if we take a closer look at Texas, we can get a better look here at some of the counties. So again, in Texas, notice it's all the eastern counties. Okay, not much in those central and western part of Texas. It's all the eastern Texas counties because that's where we've been seeing the worst impacts here. So there you go. All right, you can take a look at some of the energy sources here. But again, let's highlight some of the counties. Orange County in eastern Texas, customers tracked in that county is 41,000. and we have 35,000 without power. So most of the people in that county are without power, and that seems to be the worst county in Texas in that deepest shaded red, where nearly 100% of the county, or 90 to 100% of the county, is without power. Let's take a look into Louisiana here. Let's take a closer look and get some of the county highlights for Louisiana. All right, and again, this was updated about 10 minutes ago. All right, and you can see, look at all these counties. All right, notice, looks like New Orleans, doesn't look like much over by New Orleans. All right, not much, but when you look at the central and western part of the state, especially the southwestern part of the state where the worst of the impacts, we have lots of customers without power. Rapides County, 40,000 without power, and we're tracking 44,000 in that county. So almost 100% of the people there are without power. And keep in mind, this is customers. Okay, so normally, assuming that a house will have a family in it, that could double or triple the numbers that are actually really there. So Louisiana could probably have over 800,000 people without power, even though it's 437,000 customers. The southwestern county, where Cameron, where Laura made landfall, we're talking about pretty much 100% of the county, the whole county. County tract is 2009, and pretty much almost 2,000 people are without power. Once we get some more updates, we'll be taking a closer look at the power outages, hopefully later on in the stream here. So those that are just joining, welcome. And we are tracking Hurricane Laura here and looking at the base reflectivity. It's just kind of like the radar imagery, right? And as you can see, we still have a good looking eye wall. Obviously, it's on land. Okay, it's going to look a little ragged. Okay, that's expected. The northern eye wall looks pretty strong though. And again, this is still, okay, a Category 2 storm. So here's a northern eye wall. You can see right there. All right, definitely looking like a very powerful eye wall. And you still have some banding features setting up for a place like, Shreveport, okay? And even just north of that in El Dorado in Arkansas, we're starting to see a large band of rainfall move through there as well. Looking at the 1 hour rainfall totals here, let's take a look at those. All right, and you can see that some of the northern eye wall is producing at least, this could be even more than that, at least a couple of inches of rain per hour. And that is very dangerous. And Jones RMJ is here. Hello, Jones RMJ, how are you? In case you guys don't know, him and I actually did track the storm before it made landfall yesterday afternoon. So welcome, Jones RMJ. And those of you that are just joining, please share this video with your friends. And he says you're using the OBS software. Yes, thank you. Thank you for Jones RMJ. We got the OBS software installed. So hopefully DeWebDude can do a lot more live streams now, because before it was very confusing. And if you guys were around my channel for a while, actually the first live stream I tried to do was well over a year ago. And I accidentally, I wasn't videotaping the screen, I was videotaping my face, and I had no idea. All right, but moving on here. So the rainfall, the storm total, some of like the places we have seen a lot of rainfall. You can see, look at this, 4 or 5+ inches of rainfall. And I'm sure in southwest, this is northwestern part of Louisiana, we actually can't get radar data from the radar seems to be out for the southern part of the state. So that's why I'm showing you the radar coverage here from the northern part of Louisiana. All right, but you can see 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. I'm sure it's been a lot more than that in some spots here. Even southeast Oklahoma into western Arkansas, we've seen quite a few inches of rainfall here. So let's take a look at the NAM model here. It's like the NAM 3KM model, all right, and kind of show you where this could go, where Laura could go in the future. So I'll zoom in a little bit for you guys, all right, and you can see, look at this. Look at the pressure isolines, how close they are together. They're kind of packed in, and that still means that Laura's producing a lot of winds here. And again, so those of you that might have missed it, we have over, when you combine Texas, Louisiana, over about 530,000 customers without power, and that's customers. So it could have been over 1 million people, potentially 900,000 people when you combine Louisiana and Texas, but we will be getting more updates later on in the stream here. As you can see, as we head to 2 o'clock this afternoon, all right, you can see here's the low pressure moving through northern Louisiana, starting to enter Arkansas. You can still see, all right, obviously, it probably will be a very weak hurricane by this point, possibly maybe a high-end tropical storm. But you see that northern eye wall is still very, very good looking here, especially for, you would expect that this storm would be falling apart by now, and it's doing it, but it's falling apart pretty slowly here. And we can see a band of strong storms erupt here from eastern Arkansas, moving into Mississippi, maybe kind of like a line of severe storms. All right, as we head through, say about 10 o'clock tonight, this moves to Little Rock. All right, still with below 1,000 millibars of pressure, so it's decently still a strong storm nonetheless. Then I think it's going to start to lose some of its strength as we head through the next 36 hours. So 2 p.m. on Friday, now it's above 1,000 millibars of pressure, but it will still be producing well over 1, 2+ inches of rainfall. Even a few inches is not out of the question either. All right, so take a look at the wind speeds here. As you can see, we still have wind speeds hurricane force on that eastern side of that eye wall. You can see the pressure lines are definitely packed close together. But look at this. Even as it heads through Arkansas, we still see some tropical storm force winds. Still winds getting close to, 36, 40, 45 miles an hour plus here. So still a tropical storm as it moves through Arkansas. And we look at the total rainfall now through 2 p.m. on Saturday. We're talking about maybe 6+ inches of rainfall for southwestern Louisiana, and they have been seeing that, so maybe additional rainfall as well. And Jones RMJ says, how many weather kebabs would it take to kebab Hurricane Laura? So hopefully you guys have been watching our weather discussions too. You would know that from Mario Kart streams that we've been doing, our live weather discussions. And the number, I would say 9 million. All right, so that's how big of a storm this is. And even a couple inches of rain, still maybe upwards of 6 inches of rain through northeastern Arkansas, according to the NAM model. And even well over an inch of rain anywhere shaded in blue here. All right, and that could potentially include West Virginia, even Western Virginia. And keep in mind, if this storm were to move through the Smoky Mountains, you have to keep in mind that because of the slope here, the mountains, that could enhance rainfall. So maybe 2+ inches of rainfall for the Smoky Mountains, as well as the Appalachian chain. Now, looking at this map here, it's kind of like telling us you might have saw this when we did our stream, when I did a stream yesterday, and you can see that winds greater than 110 miles an hour is still going to be in place here, Alexandria through Lake Charles and just east of Beaumont here. But again, anywhere in that red color still mean we can still see hurricane force winds anywhere shaded in red or in purple. All right, so if we zoom in a little bit, all right, and you can see this is like just east of Shreveport, including that's a very long name, Natchitoches. I'm gonna try to pronounce that the best I can here. And just southwest of Rooston, just west of Monroe. We're talking about still wind potential in that red shade, Category 1 to Category 2 hurricane force winds is our max wind potential. But notice this. All right, as I zoom back out here and I move north, anywhere shaded in the yellow color has the potential to see tropical storm force winds. So winds greater than 40 miles an hour, well into Little Rock, even north of Little Rock. And once that yellow shade ends, that's when the storm will become a tropical depression when it leaves northern parts of Arkansas here. And hopefully I was supposed to access some weather cameras, but it looks like they are all down because of the hurricane. And just watching the live coverage here, I mean, this has been a very dangerous storm that we are having on our hands. So again, look at the orange colors. Lafayette still has the potential to see. Now the orange color is not hurricane force winds, but rather strong tropical storm force winds, anywhere from 58 to 73 miles an hour. So New Orleans is still in the yellow shade, so you guys could still see some tropical storm force winds, but I think the storm is overall leaving and lifting out of New Orleans. Again, surge threat, well over 9 feet. We've seen double-digit surge here, at least through the south central coastline and southwestern coastline of Louisiana here. Even Beaumont, all right, still seeing greater than 3 feet of surge above normally dry ground in Beaumont here. And how's the power outage potential looking? Well, Lake Charles, including Beaumont here, widespread power outages. Like I said, some of these counties were like 100% of the counties were without power. Like some counties in Texas, Louisiana, we had like the entire county was just without power. Anywhere in that red color, including Galveston, east side of Houston, east side of Trinity, Shreveport, southern portions of Little Rock, the south part of town, we have likely power outages and even possible power outages, Little Rock to Memphis. Obviously, as you head north, the power outages lessen and lessen because the wind weakens and weakens, but still, you can see power outages will still be a possibility all the way through Memphis, all right, northwestern Mississippi, all right, and even the southeastern edge of Missouri wouldn't rule out potentially some power outages, especially since this area has already been, wet, all right? We have had saturated soils, and that's obviously not good here because once the wind comes through, those trees are going to come down even easier. Even those larger trees can still cause a lot of problems, especially if they're near power lines. Falling power lines, the power goes out. And we're going to go to the radar here. I'm going to my radar, and as you can see, we have some warnings here in place. And let me go and make sure that we have the warning opacity turned up to 100. Okay, cool. All right. That way we can see the warnings better. All right, so we do have some warnings here. Looks like some flood warnings. Let's get into those. In case you don't know which flood warning I am talking about, I'm highlighting this particular flood warning here. All right, so this is for the Ouachita River. Hopefully I'm saying that right. The Ouachita River at Arkadelphia, which almost sounds like Philadelphia. That's pretty weird. All right, so Arkadelphia, I believe this is Arkansas, okay? And this remains in effect at, looks like 9 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. The stage was 8.1 feet, flood stage is 17 feet, but this forecast is obviously, in case you guys don't know, the rivers can actually rise at the highest points after the rain is done. After all the rain is done, that's usually actually when the rivers rise to their highest point. So it's at 8 feet now. You might be thinking, why is there a flood warning? Flood stage is 17 feet. We got nothing to worry about. But by Saturday morning, this storm is long gone. It's in the mid-Atlantic by Saturday morning. We could see rising to a crest of 24 feet, which is 7 feet above flood stage. Okay, so we could see some pretty catastrophic damage here, especially if it gets to that level. And it's forecast to rise to 24 feet. Even at 21 feet, okay, State Highway 7 and State Highway 51 east of Arkadelphia are flooded. Now, imagine what 24 feet could possibly do. Okay, it could be doing worse damage than that. That's 3 feet of water above that. Now, at 22 feet, roads are flooding, including Nix's Ferry here. We got Clark County roads 928, State Highway 7 and 51. Again, east of Arkadelphia. All right, so some more roads could flood at 22 feet. And at 24 feet, flooding near Hemphill Road and Maddox Branch, and the fringe of airport begins to flood. All right, so that's not good if an airport starts flooding, because the flights could be stalled coming out of that airport. And take a look at another flood warning. The flood warning I'll be highlighting now is the one just south of the one I was just mentioning. I assume it could be for the same river. Let's take a look at that. All right, and yes, this is also the Ouachita River, but this is at Camden, okay, not Arkadelphia. All right, the stage was 8.8 feet at 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Flood stage for this portion of the river is 26 feet. This could rise to a crest of 36 feet, okay? But notice when it rises to that crest of 36 feet. Not until September 2nd. That's when the river will reach its highest peak point, okay? That what we call the crest of the river. So we could be seeing flooding well after the first week of September here, because the river will only be rising from here. You can see the heaviest band of rainfall, all right, not the eye wall, but we do see a very, very heavy band of rainfall moving through Camden and Arkadelphia, okay? And this is southern Arkansas. And once the eye wall moves through there, we're going to see even more damage, even more river flooding. Okay, so kind of going to the bottom here. At 36 feet, what would happen? Well, moderate flooding would begin at this level. Access roads to commercial, industrial, and residential development are now flooding. Access to locations along the river downstream of Camden are by boat only. So that's how much rainfall we're talking about here, okay? You cannot access these roads by cars or trucks. It has to be boat. So that's the kind of threat we're talking about here. We're going to get back to some more flood warnings in a second. Before I move back to my other maps, I want to take a look at one more. Looks like this might be a tornado warning, actually. Is this a tornado warning? Actually, it's actually another flood warning. So let's take a look at one more flood warning here. This is the Bayou Dorchey near Spring Hill. All right, so hopefully you guys are evacuated if you live in Arkansas, Louisiana, and eastern Texas here, because the worst of the storm is moving through for northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas. Well, eventually southern Arkansas, but northern Louisiana is starting to see the worst of it now. You can see that 4.5 feet at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. The stage of this river was, or the bayou was at 4.5 feet. Flood stage is 11. You might be thinking, okay, we're fine. No, not really, because this could rise by Sunday morning, which is a couple days away still, 3 days away, 15 feet. All right, which is 4 feet above its flood stage. All right, by Sunday morning, and then you have to think about. It's not like it's going to rise to its crest on Sunday morning and then just drop all of a sudden. It's going to take a while for it to come down, all right? Especially if we see more rainfall after the hurricane. So we will return to these shortly, all right? But let's get back to the regular maps now. And as you can see, kind of like taking a look at another review of the alerts here. We don't have, as of the latest, I don't think that we have, oh, here we just got the latest 9 p.m. Eastern update to these alerts here. I don't see any hurricane warnings extending into Arkansas, because I think that once it crosses the Arkansas-Louisiana state line, I think that it will most likely potentially weaken into a tropical storm, which is why the tropical storm force warnings exist for Arkansas, Texarkana. But still, anywhere from the Arkansas, Louisiana state line, point south, Alexandria, just west of Lafayette, even Port Arthur, you guys are still under hurricane warnings, okay? And this is as of 9 p.m., so it was just updated 10 minutes ago. Houston, Galveston, you have been taken out of the tropical storm warning, but east of Tyler, we're talking about Lufkin, Texas, Shreveport, Monroe, Lafayette, even Huma and Grand Isle still under tropical storm warnings, even up through Texarkana again and Little Rock. All right, so still a lot to watch here with this storm. So keep you here for updates as we continue this coverage here. And the latest now, so usually National Hurricane Center does, like I told you guys, 2 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 a.m., and so on, updates every 3 hours or so. But now they're doing hourly updates up before the storm made landfall. Now we're getting hourly updates. The hourly updates do not update the track, but we are updated on the storm's current information. So looks like it still has, even as the 9 o'clock update, Still 100-mile-per-hour winds are in place here. Still moving north at 15 miles an hour. As you can see, as it heads toward the Louisiana-Arkansas state line, still talk about hurricane force winds at 75 miles per hour. And you can see, look at this. I've also noticed this when I take a look at satellite imagery as well. You see a heavy band, all right, maybe thunderstorms, very heavy band of rainfall is taking place just off the coastline. So that could be like maybe like the back side of the storm system could kick in as well. As it moves to Little Rock, still a mid-grade tropical storm, 45-mile-an-hour winds. Then once it leaves Arkansas, it becomes a tropical depression and eventually a post-tropical depression as it heads towards Washington. But notice, the winds go from 35 to 30, but then they go back up to 35 as it heads towards D.C. in the mid-Atlantic, and then eventually maybe 40, 50 miles an hour once it heads off the coast of the mid-Atlantic. So taking a look here, let's update this. All right, this was actually 8:45 a.m. Eastern time. We're getting some observations from the winds and the buoys. As you can see, the hurricane has lifted through, so some of the off-the-coast buoys here are picking up winds 30 miles an hour still, gust of 30 miles an hour. You have gust of 20 here, buoy 42003, which is way off the coast here in the eastern Gulf. So we're still seeing some pretty gusty winds, even in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. All right, we're still seeing some heavy bands of rainfall that could kick up the wind speeds. All right, that are taking place across the Gulf of Mexico, even as the storm lifts into Louisiana. All right, so look at the wind field. As you can see, none of these towns, at least shown on this portion of the map, are, someone is obviously under the hurricane wind field. It's a pretty large hurricane wind field, okay? Especially for being over land, because this should be weakening a lot quicker than it actually is. And again, you might be thinking, well, why is it not weakening that fast? Well, it's moving faster. I'm not saying, this isn't moving slow. This isn't moving completely like at rocket speed, like some other storms like Isaias was at some point. All right, but it is moving fast, and this gives it less time to weaken, and this will drive the wind threat all the way inland through Arkansas and Missouri. So Cameron and Lafayette, all right, and Monroe, Shreveport, Texarkana, you are in the tropical storm force winds, all right, for the storm system. And let's actually give a little refresh to the radar. And while we're waiting for that from the Weather Channel, I want to take a look at the tide cycles. And before I do that, it looks like Jones RJ has another comment. He says, do you think the storm will make it to the East Coast like we saw, we predicted the path yesterday? And good question, Jones RJ. And yes, it is still, all right, it is still projected to move through the mid-Atlantic. The exact track has it moving off the coast of the Delmarva, okay, as we head through, say, like late Saturday afternoon, all right, and maybe in through overnight. And then this, so basically the day Saturday for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, that's like your main threat. And then, but luckily it'll be moving even faster as it moves to the mid-Atlantic. And then once it heads off the East Coast, that's when it's going to start moving at rocket speeds here. Okay, by 24 hours, it might, like, on 1 a.m. Sunday, it might be just leaving the East Coast. But by 1 a.m. Monday, it is well into Newfoundland, and it is out of here. Okay, so this will be moving at rocket speed by that point. So good question, Jones RMJ. All right. So we'll take a look at the tide cycles here. As you can see, this is actually for Lake Charles, Louisiana. Yesterday, we took a look at the Galveston Pier. And you can see for Lake Charles, high tide was at 6 o'clock this morning. All right. And you can see by 11:45 a.m. is when we have our lowest tide. So that's some good news for Lake Charles, is that the tide will start coming down, but the tide may never come down because there's so much surge flooding that the tide may never actually come down. And then it's going to get worse because at 2 p.m. is when we have our next high tide. So that's when you really have to hunker down there in Lake Charles. Hopefully you are hunkered down already, but that's when you still need to be hunkered down. Then we might get a little bit more relief maybe by 11:15 p.m. we see another low tide here tonight, and now hopefully that'll give us a chance to clean up here as the storm will be moving on to the north. So let's get another little update here with the radar, see if we see any changes. All right, and actually that is the base velocities, and you can see that's the good news. Don't see too many tornado warnings. I know there are some tornado warnings out there, but we don't see too many reds and greens touching each other on the radar, which means we're not seeing too much in the way of rotation, but there are still definitely some tornado warnings out there. Hopefully, if there are any, we'll be taking a look at those soon. All right, but here it is. Shreveport was trying to enter some very heavy rain. Rain band just moved through El Dorado. All right, we have the eye of the storm. It's a little bit of a ragged eye, but like I said, it still looks pretty good for how the storm should be looking right now. So there's the eye of the storm moving due west of Alexandria, Louisiana. We have plenty of flood warnings covering pretty much the entire northwestern and even the southwestern part of Louisiana. And western parts of Monroe. All right, we have those heavier bands of rain, and eventually the northern eye wall will be making its way north. Looks like right between Monroe and Shreveport, Louisiana. Here's Shreveport, here's Monroe. the eye wall will be moving in a direction like this. So maybe right in between those two cities and towns. Let's see if we got a little refresher here with the power outages. Maybe we got some new numbers coming in. And yes, in fact, we do have some numbers coming in. So if you're just joining, this is Hurricane Laura live coverage. Please consider liking, subscribing if not already, and share this video with your friends. And when we take a look at the power outages, Louisiana went from 437,000 customers up to 450,000 customers. Like I said, especially after the storm, these numbers will definitely be going up a lot more than they are now. Texas has reported another 6,000 outages at 116,000 outages for you. But like I said, these are just customers. So if you combine Louisiana and Texas, that's about 566,000 or nearly 567,000 customers without power. But if you double that, that could, because that's what determines the amount of people that are without power. So we could be close to, if not above now, 1 million customers without power. Not related to Laura, but California actually has 17,000 customers without power, which is interesting as well, right? But again, Texas, Louisiana could combine for a potential 1 million or close to around more or less 1 million people without power. Since we have another update here, let's actually take a look, another in-depth look at Louisiana, and you can see even some of the northern counties already. I mean, we got Union County, which has 5,000 customers without power, and they are tracking over 13,000 customers. So that's a good chunk of the county without power. But any of these dark red counties that you see here, meaning nearly, if not actually 100% of the county is without power. So no one in that county, no one in these set of counties here could have power. Only a few people in the I can't say this right, Natchitoches County in Louisiana. We just have 12,700 customers without power and 13,000 customers are tracked. So that's like 98% of the county there, all right? And again, some of the counties here, like we got only a few thousand people that still have power. Even Jefferson Davis County, okay, only not even 1,000 customers still have power. All right, but good news is it looks like, at least for, say, New Orleans, I don't see like St. Bernard counties, only 10 customers without power. We're not seeing too many power outages near the Lake Pontchartrain regions. There actually was a tornado warning that spawned off of Lake Pontchartrain the other day when Jones RMJ and I were doing our live coverage of Hurricane Laura yesterday. But it looks like only in Orleans County, only 170 customers are without power. So maybe only a few hundred people without power there, which is good news. So not too many customers without power over there. But I do want to actually take a look. I did take a look at Texas and Louisiana in depth. But let's take a look at Arkansas real quick. Not too many people in Arkansas without power. The entire state has like nearly 700 customers, so maybe just over 1,000 people. If you do the math, kind of almost doubling that number. But Arkansas, like I said, I mean, the worst is yet to come for you guys. But there are 3 counties that are not in that medium shade of blue that are seeing some outages. Faulkner County, 237 customers. 18 customers, it looks like, in Lincoln, and these are determined by percentages. Okay, so Lincoln, maybe a few percent of the county seeing some outages now, and Lee County, 127 outages. But like I said, these numbers will skyrocket as the storm continues to move through Arkansas here. Again, alerts. We have the alerts here. I'll see if we get a little update to the outages. Outages still widespread across like Lake Charles, so still a very dangerous situation we have ongoing here for eastern Texas, central and western Louisiana, even through Texarkana, and eventually southern and central Arkansas as we head through the day today. Let's take a look at the radar again, kind of like the future radar in case some of you might have missed. They're going to get another review here from the NAM 3KM model. As you can see, very strong storm. Here's 8 o'clock this morning, or let's take a look at 9 o'clock actually. Texas, Louisiana border. It's pretty much crossing into Louisiana. Let me switch my font color to black here so you guys can see it a little bit better. All right, and as you can see, there's a storm. Again, don't focus on the wind speeds because since the storm is on shore, I have found that the NAM model and the high resolution model kind of downgrade the winds so that they're less than what they actually are. But what I want you to pay attention to is that the pressure ice lines are so tightly packed together here, okay? And that's going to cause a lot of problems, all right, for say eastern Texas and western Louisiana. So since we're closing on the 30-minute mark, I'm going to do a couple more minutes, all right, here. So if you have any last-minute weather questions about the storm, or you have any weather questions about the storm, anything to say about the weather, be sure to put that in the live chat as we head through our last few minutes here. Going over the National Hurricane Center map, this is from the 8 o'clock update, obviously from the Weather Channel. And they're getting hourly updates from the National Hurricane Center here. I'm actually a little curious. Let's actually go to Chocolate Tidbits and go to the aircraft reconnaissance and see if they're maybe flying into the storm. And in fact, they actually did their 25th mission. This could have been their last mission. because I think after the storm makes landfall, I don't really think they kind of fly into the storm. They still do, all right, but maybe not quite as often. But you can see this storm made landfall. As a little review, this storm made landfall with 150-mile-an-hour sustained winds. And keep in mind, this storm is 100-mile-an-hour winds right now, but winds are gusting well over 130 miles an hour still. The winds are gusting well in the Cat 4 status in some spots. All right, even though the sustained winds might be 100 miles an hour. This made landfall with about 937 to 939 millibars of pressure as a Hurricane Hunter is conducted here. Now, keep in mind, this was also at 3:10 a.m. This morning. You can see there is the eye of the storm right there as I move through. This is where it was at 3 o'clock, and the Hurricane Hunters move out. But again, those darker pink colors, we definitely picked up winds more than 100. They actually picked up winds of more than 140 knots here in some spots, which that is just really catastrophic wind. And I know that there's been a lot of power outages, and power outages are going to continue to skyrocket. Okay, we're around, when you combining Texas, Louisiana, maybe some, all right, maybe some closer to Category 5 gusts, but not quite. So thank you guys for watching this live coverage. Please share this video with your friends. Thank you guys very much for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I will be doing a regular premiere later today, hopefully. So hopefully you guys could check that out on another tropical disturbance in the tropical Atlantic. So consider ringing the bell notifications so you don't miss that. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till